Any public comments?
Hi, my name is Roger Sherman. I live at 5 Fairview Road. I am a voter, taxpayer of this town, and glad to see all you here. You're doing good work. My concerns are about the Country Club of Woodbridge. I'm not in favor of your RFP at all. I don't believe in changing any type of zoning to build any condos in the area, because I believe we haven't done enough to make the clubhouse work. I've been up the club several times. The lots have been full. A lot of people are using the facilities. I've even seen Lawrence in the pool this past weekend. Nice tan. He does a good job playing ball with his son. I spent a lot of time there. I talked to people. There were people from Bethany. They were at the pool, and they said, they don't have any type of facility like the Woodbridge Club in Bethany. They come down here, they wish they had that facility. And I talked to another golfer. I said, how do you like the course? The course is great. I said, are there any problems? They don't have a clubhouse. They don't have some place to go eat, have a beer after. I went over to Oak Lane. I talked to the bartender, and he said, yeah, we get a lot of people that come over from the Woodbridge Club just to have something to eat and a beer after golf. We are losing people by not putting any dollars into that clubhouse. You drive up to the front. What do you see? Peeling paint. Can we put a little paint on it? Put the appearance up on it. The pool is great. It's beautiful. Water is great. Again, a little paint. Anthony does a great job there. He does more than anybody there. He loves that club. He could probably use some help marketing. The rec commission invested some money into the tennis courts. Over the 4th of July weekend, I seen people with tennis rackets right away. They're getting use of that. Other places do not have this type of facility. Let me see. East Hartford, they have a club there. They just put $1 million into their club, the golf course, into their clubhouse. They saw the value, and that is a great value of having this clubhouse. We need to put something in there. If you put a roof on it, put a coat of paint on it, and put an RFP out for somebody to come in there and renovate it and put a banquet facility in there, you could make it work. The parking lot, it's a little rough, but don't have to overlay the whole thing. You could do a chip seal on it. That's what they did at Oak Lane. They gave out, he put all his own money into renovating that clubhouse and the parking lot. They're stealing our customers, to tell you the truth. This is a taxpayer facility, and the people are coming to it. It's a great value. We're pulling a lot of people in, and I am not prepared to give up on that club. I live across the street. I hear the people on the tees laughing, having a good time. And I really would like to see the board reconsider the RFP that you're looking for to build, condos. All right? The only reason why you could do that is because of the sewer line. I'm afraid if you build condos there and change the zoning, other people are going to come in and want to do the same thing. All right? If Oak Lane failed, it's not too far to run that sewer line just a little bit further and right in the back entrance, another development. Here we are in charge of our own destiny with this club. We own it. We are in charge of our own destiny. Please consider that. Once it's gone, it will be gone forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. The next item is the item we added, the microgrid update. We have two very positive
news items on the microgrid. One is that last night, the Amity Board of Education agreed to go ahead with the microgrid project. And the other is that we have an extraordinary new opportunity with respect to the generation of the power. Just to remind everyone, we have the $3 million state grant for the energy transmission, and that's to do the underground power lines. And what we were originally anticipating was an RFP on the generation side, because it would have cost upward of $6 million to purchase equipment, which was beyond our means. But instead, we were going to do an RFP and negotiate for the cost of electricity. But we have a new opportunity from United Illuminating. Tony, would you like
Sure.
to describe it?
Yep, the United Illuminating is required to put in 10 megawatts of renewable energy on their grid somewhere. They have, I believe it has to be Class 1 renewable, is what if I remember correctly. And that's essentially fuel cell, solar. Those are sort of the ones they've been using. And they put solar in Bridgeport, and I think that's 5 megawatts. And they are planning to put in a fuel cell, I believe, in New Haven of 2.8 megawatts. So they have 2.2 megawatts of power remaining to put somewhere in their system. And so the idea that came up was that the UI would put their remaining 2.2 megawatts of power as our power source for our microgrid.
Wow.
The only difference is that previously we had the microgrid was going to be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week source of power for this area. And the UI proposal, the town and the school would only use the power when it was in island mode, which means that when the main grid went down, then we would use the power from the microgrid and these fuel cell over to Amity at the high school. When the grid was up, we would purchase power from the grid like we normally do, and the energy from the fuel cell would feed back into the grid as they're required to do by some public act. I'm not sure which one it is. So that's the major difference. The plus side to that is the uncertainty and complexity of a power purchase agreement is no longer necessary, because we would just purchase power like we always purchase power.
Right.
And when we use power from the fuel cell, as currently proposed anyway, we would pay the UI rate, whatever that is at the time for power. So there would be no charge other than what we would normally pay for power.
Right, and we would not be locked in. So, for example, if we wanted to increase solar
Right.
and buy less energy from United Illuminating, we would be free to do that. This gives us much more flexibility. It's equally reliable. It's greener than what we had before, because it's all fuel cell. Before it was a fuel cell and a microturbine. And as the people we checked with DEEP about this, if we had to change the contract in any way, they said we don't have to. And from their point of view, the way they put it is, your energy source was just like presented to you and given to you, and they think it's an extraordinary opportunity. So wanted to make sure everybody knew that, and seems the way to go. We don't have to do an RFP. We checked with DEEP about that, and we can move forward now. So it's, yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I have some
Tony?
questions.
Yeah.
So instead of using the microgrid for any, it would only be up in service during when the main grid is down.
It would always be
The
running.
U-
It would always be running,
Yeah,
but we
but
would
we're
not
only
access our,
utilizing
right.
it.
Right. Correct.
And they'll pay to put in the cell because they need to fill their 10 megawatt.
Right.
Okay. However, I didn't hear you say, so I guess my real question is, part of the PPA that we had a lot of concern about was who's going to do the maintenance, who's going to maintain
UI
the
would
grid.
maintain it.
You will, so
Yeah.
the UI will
It's
maintain
their
it.
asset. They own it,
Right.
they maintain it, they upgrade it.
Because there was concern about
All
what
theirs.
company would come in, would they be here in 10 years, and
Right.
this is
It
UI.
would not be a town asset.
And therefore, without having to put out a PPA, the only reason a company would do it, especially if they were going to pay to install the fuel cell and the maintenance, would be to charge us probably a little bit more, and we'd have a steady rate for a 20-year plan
And
or
a
something
lock-in.
like that.
Okay.
We'd be
For
locked in.
For over a period.
So you're saying UI is not going to request any type of lock-in and the rates would be the same as always.
Correct.
As whatever.
Correct.
they-
Whatever we would go out to the bid for, we would pay it, you know.
As I understand it, they would want an easement to put their fuel cell on the property, and that's basically it.
We weren't gonna use it other than when power went down anyway,
No.
were we?
Yes, we
yeah.
were.
We
We were
were.
going to
We
be
were.
totally on
Totally on
the
this
grid.
area.
I mean, it's invisible to us. It's
Yeah.
just power, right? So this would just be a different way of operating where UI would be using the power that they generate. I mean, wherever the power comes from. But in the event of a power outage, it would immediately go to island mode, and we would have the benefit of the microgrid.
One smaller benefit is the Amity High School gets to use the waste heat.
Right.
If they choose to go that route, there's some retrofitting involved, so they'd have to decide whether they want to do that.
So last
And-
question I have is you said the fuel cell, but I didn't actually hear, what was the fuel, I mean, it wasn't a solar fuel cell?
Natural gas.
Natural gas fuel
Right.
cell, okay, which we already have the lines there.
Right.
So to me, this is all a lot to process here, so, but I presume we've done all the cost benefit analysis and all with all these changes and everything, and Deep says it's good, and Tony, I mean, this is all
Right.
really a net benefit to us?
There's no cost to us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think we're being asked to vote on anything today.
Correct.
If we
No.
were, I'd
But-
like to see
No,
a bunch
you're
of
not.
comparisons in
There's
writing
nothing-
and so forth, but I'm presuming that we've already done that, because it's being presented as a net positive.
Correct. We've
so-
spoken to our attorneys, we've spoken to Deep. We've already, the board has already authorized me to sign the agreement with Deep, and it requires no changes to go ahead with this. And so that's my intention. I was not planning to sign until Amity had agreed, and now they did last night. So this all came together very recently with UI coming in with the proposal, and I think that actually, my impression is it helped the Amity board, because the Amity board had been concerned in particular about the long-term contract and what the rates would be, and this alleviated their concerns. So,
So our approval was on a different set of facts, right? When we approved
it
you
was a
to sign.
different, we had a different concept, but the contract is the same with Deep.
But with
It was,
Deep,
it was a different phase, a different step two, this, in the sense of where we were getting the energy.
Right, I mean,
This is a better way for us to get the energy.
in the first,
Right.
the first presentation, the attorney came and presented it, and everybody
Right.
said, fine. That attorney is not well right now. We could have another attorney come and explain the difference, but I think basically we've told you
Right.
what it is. It's not a lot less information than you had before. It's about the same.
well, I understand. I'm just saying, we approved it on a different set of facts, a different concept, and that's okay. I'm not trying to be obstructionist,
Yeah.
but I throw that out there, and therefore, you know, if you're going to proceed on that approval, it has been changed since it was approved, and I'm relying on the fact that you all have done the analysis, because I have not, and this,
Right.
quite frankly, is not enough for me to do it. So I'm just saying, I'm relying on the fact that Tony and the town and you as first selectman,
think we
Jerry,
all are.
whoever,
Yes,
I'm relying on the fact that, yes, it is indeed a better way to proceed.
fair enough.
I'm
I
not-
think that's,
You know.
and if there's any additional information you'd like, we'll be
Well, I
happy to
mean,
get
I would
that
like
for
to
you.
kind of see what you just verbally said. I mean, to me, I always like to see the comparisons and analyze it myself, and, you know, but I'm not being asked to vote.
Right.
So I'm just simply saying, listen, you've kind of changed the approval, but if it's a net win for the town, I'm all for it. I don't have enough information to make that independent determination, that's all I'm saying.
Can I ask you one more question,
Sure.
Tony? You know, when he was here and before we were gonna go to a PPA, the talk at that time was there would be two fuel cell areas. There would be something that would have to be over here by the senior center building, and then the larger one was gonna be on the high school.
A
Am
gas
I-
turbine
gas
over there,
turbine
not
over
a
there.
fuel cell.
Or
Right, so the turbine that was gonna be here, we have no need whatsoever for, because it's the UI running the grid,
Correct.
and they're running it through the gas line. So it's just
Right.
the only fuel cell will be on the high school property
Right.
that they've approved.
That's
So
correct.
there'll be no
Nothing on our
necessity for
property
any-
anywhere. That's correct.
I have kind of a conceptual question, actually. So, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but why did UI decide to come bless us with this largesse, so to speak? I mean, were they aware of the microgrid?
They wanted to be
yes.
part of the microgrid process.
I see, okay, so
There's
it was
one.
it's all sort of inclusive in that, I got you.
Because UI is the entity that would be doing the transmission line, so they're
Right.
involved in any event.
Okay.
And so it works
Well,
for
that
them
makes
as
sense.
well.
That makes sense, okay.
And I believe we're only one of 9 projects that were originally approved for as far as the funding goes.
It sounds like a win-win-win, I mean, all the way around.
It was very
13?
few.
It was
But,
like, I thought there was 9, but a couple of them were colleges or something, and they
We
weren't
came- it was
necessarily
between
towns.
us and
Maybe we were
Wyndham.
9
This is the-
I
municipalities or
think the
something.
total was 13 for one of them.
And this is the only one with a utility providing the generation. It's great.
Great,
Somewhat unique.
That's good.
great.
Okay, if you have any other questions, just let Tony know or let me know, and we'll get you whatever you need. Okay, item number 7, Administrative Officer, Director of Finance report. Tony?
Okay. The monthly report is for our 12-month period ending June of 2014. And the result is a budgetary surplus of $189,000 at the end of the fiscal year. This would leave our fund balance at about $4.5 million, or a little under 10%. We do have some, I'm still reviewing some encumbrances and some year-end adjustments and year-end financial information, so there is a possibility that that can increase, hopeful, to maybe 10% of our annual budget. Some highlights that we've discussed are tax revenue is a surplus of $100,000 approximately. Intergovernmental revenue is a $130,000 surplus. Department revenue is a shortfall of $762,000, mainly due to golf fees that were a shortfall of $779,000. And our interest income is a shortfall of about $25,000. Country Club Woodbridge is expected to experience a surplus of $341,000. The center building is a surplus of about $20,000, largely due to natural gas savings. Waste management is a surplus of approximately $75,000, primarily due to reduced tonnage in recycling and municipal solid waste and some lower than anticipated fees. Employee benefits are a surplus of about $60,000, and the Woodbridge Board of Education is reporting a surplus of about $43,000. So those are our main highlights for you.
Any questions for Tony?
A comment, if I may. Given the challenges the town faced in fiscal year 14 with the Country Club of Woodbridge, for Tony and the department heads to have brought this budget in with a modest surplus, I think is remarkable and important to acknowledge. I think I sent a note, I meant to.
If you didn't, you will now consider it having done it.
Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't afford the postage, but I sent email. Anyway, I just wanted to make that comment. I think Tony, you do a terrific job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Tony.
I did want to hand out, there was a question last meeting about some fund balance history. So I wanted to hand out a little history for us to review. Okay. This is a 10-year deficit surplus history for the town of Woodbridge. The one thing to keep in mind is in all of these years, the town had in its budget a $400,000 contribution from fund balance. So if you can see here, that happened where it was used in its entirety one time. That was in 2007, where the contribution was actually $534. And that was for purchase of 2 open space properties. The fund balance is constantly reviewed and is something that is a part of a complex arrangement of things that are looked at when our credit is analyzed, and fund balance is a tool that can be used by the board when necessary. At that particular time, our fund balance percentage was 12.53, and the Board of Selectmen at the time felt that it was appropriate to use it was $591,000 actually, to purchase. It was the phase 3 of the Racebrook track was part of it, and then it was the Iker property, I think. You know which property that is?
Which one?
What's it? Is that the right one? Iker?
Yes.
That's
It's
the
part
way.
of the Shepherd Farm.
Up by the Shepherd Farm. Those are the 2 that were involved that year. Just some highlights, in 2010, you'll see there's a large use there. That year in particular, we saw a large drop in our investment income. If you remember, our investment income dropped significantly in like a 1 to 2 year period, and that's what had happened that year. And then finally, in 2013, you all know that we had a $500,000 shortfall in golf revenues. So those were sort of the three unusual circumstances that had happened. But you can see other years where we had surpluses. And what we do in Woodbridge is we employ conservative budget practices, particularly in revenues, but also in expenses. So oftentimes, even though you're contributing $400,000 from fund balance, you don't actually use it, because there's many years where we're conservative about a lot of our revenues.
Right.
We don't count on the market increasing in investments. We usually don't take a risk on that. Building permits. There's a whole set of assumptions that are more state grant revenue. We never usually book any of those revenues unless we're pretty sure we're going to get them. So this is just sort of a history of where sort of we are with our fund balance. We did recently, we have a note sale actually tomorrow and a bond sale, and that's for all of our capital projects. And we received our rating for Moody's, which is reaffirmed our AAA rating with a stable outlook, which means that stable outlook means that typically, aside from AAA, you get a rating with an outlook, which would be a negative outlook or a positive outlook or a stable outlook. Because AAA is the top of the category, we received a stable outlook. And I think there's about 15 or so in Connecticut that are AAA, of which we are one. And they just look at many factors, and fund balance is just one of many things that is looked at. Tax collection rate is one, grand list is another, wealth of the community is another, management practices is another, stability in management is another, how often you have finance directors that leave and come and go and come. There's a whole list of things that go into that rating, and so I just wanted you all to know that.
And
Sure.
I just want to say, Tony sort of understates the terrific job that he does, and that once again we have the AAA rating. So congratulations, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And to be one of just 15 towns really speaks so well for our financial management. So thank you, Tony.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Joe.
I just want to make sure I understand it. So
Sure, absolutely.
For all of these years, the 400 was built into the budget.
Correct.
But what this is showing is exclusive. In other words, let's take 2004. We had a 312, 728 surplus exclusive of that 400.
So this is cash in or out the door.
Okay.
So the $400,000 is a budget figure.
Yeah.
So this is actually cash in the door.
Okay.
So on that year, if everything equaled zero, every budget item was on the button, we should have lost $400,000 in that year. Actually,
Right.
we were ahead $312,000. So as from a budgetary point of view, it's more of a $712,000
Right.
difference.
Right. So that's
Is that your question?
exclusive of the
No, that was
400.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I just
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
be
right.
sure.
Yes, that's correct.
I just wanted to be sure.
Right.
So in 2013, on your chart,
Right, okay.
you have it as a loss of 276.
Right.
But we just finished the report that showed me a budgetary surplus of 189,
Right.
which shows me a loss of 211.
Correct.
So I'm just
Absolutely
wondering, where's
correct.
the, how does that, what doesn't translate into...
So what'll happen is if those numbers are consistent into the end of the year, then this column here will be a loss of 211,000.
You'll switch this column. So
Yeah,
this was more
I presented on a
projection.
budget basis for this purpose because that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a budget
So this
analysis.
was more of a projection, this is more of what we're actually...
This is an
seeing.
audit, right?
Gotcha. So this will be changed, and eventually they'll be the same.
what'll
I was
happen
just
is-
wondering why they were different.
What'll happen is you because this is your first, I think your first full term here. In September, I'll present an actual
Yeah.
And then you'll see the actuals,
Because there's
and it'll
still
show you the loss and all that.
financials to come in, insurance, that type of thing. Okay, so
Right.
that number will eventually be the same. It's just right now, one's more of a projection and one's more.
That's right.
actual.
And
Correct.
just so I understand the timeline, even after we see the actual, that is still subject to audit.
Correct. Then
Which
our
doesn't
auditors come in.
Which doesn't come out for another year, correct?
Right, that's right.
So it's an ongoing.
The audit comes out in December. So, right.
Right.
There's a possibility that there can be an audit adjustment or two.
Any other questions for Tony? Okay, next are the funding requests. First is line item transfer 1314-30 in the amount of $16,500. Tony?
These are for some salary adjustments that were made at the beginning of the fiscal year. I wanted to hold off and use some existing funds for this. So that's why there was, we held off until sort of the end of the year to do this. But this was done earlier by the board.
Any questions for Tony? I will move approval of line item transfer 1314-30 in the amount of $16,500.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. The next is request for funding number 1314-31.
This is to fund costs associated with the administrative leave, paid administrative leave of the animal control officer. And the total deficit in FY14 operations at this point is projected to be about $46,000. The there is a fund balance in the fund for animal control of $31,000, a little under $32,000. So this transfer assumes that we would be using that fund balance to pay for the majority of that shortfall, and then the rest would be contributed by the town. The reason there's a fund balance in the fund, so.
Any questions?
Well, the deficit in our operations is.
It's
based on
mainly
salary,
it's
extra
part-time
salaries.
wages and overtime related to bringing in coverage
It's
for.
the extra salary.
Yeah, it's all salary, yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to approve funding 1314-31 in the amount of $14,258?
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is line item transfer number 1314-32.
This is a request from the Human Services Department to use some funds to purchase the existing 2008 van from Greater New Haven Transit, which they claim is in great shape and is worth purchasing for she has it outlined there, $4,400.
Why are they getting rid of it? They don't need it?
It's up, lease is up, so they have an option of either
I understand.
purchasing the van or
Gotcha.
getting rid of it.
Oh, okay,
Right.
thank you.
This isn't the van that's in the FY15 capital budget.
No, we're gonna get to
Wishful
that.
thinking.
We're gonna, well, I'll get to that though.
44 minutes.
Yeah, we do.
I'll get to that.
I'll move line item transfer number 1314-32 in the amount of $3,135. Any other questions?
Along those lines, oh, you have to
Before-
do.
Should we
oh,
vote?
yeah,
And then,
yeah.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Tony.
So along those lines, Mary Ellen has been working on a grant for that bus. So I think she might have mentioned it in her, I don't know if she mentioned it in her budget report.
I think she did
I think she
mention
did,
that. She
right?
was trying- yeah.
And so she was working on a grant, I believe it's 80% of funding. I think it's 80%. And she applied for that grant and received the grant award. So,
And she wasn't too optimistic when she came
Right.
to us, but
so it's
she got it.
great news that
Yep.
that bus will be funded,
Wow.
majority
Yeah,
of
'cause
it.
that's a $65
Yeah.
purchase.
Right, so it's a $40,000, roughly
Yeah.
$40,000 grant.
That's really good. Oh,
Yeah.
great news.
Right.
Yeah,
Ah,
so that's great
That's
news.
There's one other funding request that we'll take up later in the bid waiver section. So next is animal control.
all right, I have a pass on that.
Okay. So, this is our animal control report for June. Now that we have we're back to our normal operations in animal control, I was wondering if it was possible that we can, if the board wanted to continue the animal control report each month or not.
Anyone?
certainly up to.
Is it hard to do?
No, I just didn't know if you
Well,
wanted it every month. You're certainly welcome to.
Well, maybe we can just distribute this, just email it
Yeah.
out, and we don't have to
You
go
can put it in
over
the packet, sure.
Just
Put it in the packet
Yeah.
and not on the agenda unless there's something exciting.
Unless something comes
that-
up, we would of
right.
course bring it to your
I think
attention.
that's just
Okay.
swell.
Okay.
Yep. Because I do like to hear about it.
So there were
Happy about it.
50 calls.
Another good thing.
12 in Bethany, 20 in Derby, and 18 in Woodbridge. 1, 2, 4, 6, 7 adoptions. There are 5 cats, 3 kittens, and 6 dogs at the shelter. 108 visitors were at the shelter this month. 200 phone calls. And there's been a lot of work to the grounds. I don't know if you've been there recently, but there's been a lot of work to the grounds with plantings and flowers and tarps that were put over outside the kennels, and it just looks much better. There's been a lot of good work by a lot of people. So,
Any questions? The next item is authorizing the first selectman to accept the $6,000 grant for the Nutmeg Network. That's the high-speed internet connection that
Mhm.
Tony has described before. I don't have any questions about this for Tony.
I remember that.
Did you want-
I do have a one slight issue with this grant, and I'm currently researching the grant that we had applied for was for about $24,000 worth of equipment, and that's what we were hoping we would get. We received a $6,000 grant, so there's going to be some equipment purchases required of the town in order to go forward with connecting to the Nutmeg Network. I do not have that paperwork here, so my suggestion is
Let's steal Mary Ellen's grant. Shh, don't tell her.
I would have to put that together for you. I don't know if there's any way you can, maybe I just want to hold off on this, or
Well,
can you do
Is
it
there a
subject
deadline
to?
that it has to be done by a certain time?
I think so.
Business days.
How many?
I've already gotten an extension on
To accept the grant? So you gotta-
So you can accept the grant and just,
it.
we could just accept the grant and not do the purchases until,
Yeah.
Are we obligated to,
Except only 6,000, or can we put two?
You mean,
If we accept the grant and the town doesn't want to go forward with the purchases,
We
the
just
question
don't-
is, can we give the grant back?
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
think they will give us the money until we actually,
No, it's a reimbursement grant anyway, probably,
yeah,
so.
so like we have to
We
spend
we would
it.
have to spend it first, so if you
Okay.
don't go forward with spending it,
If
then
we don't take the money.
we'll take the money.
so there's no harm in
No harm.
going ahead?
Yeah.
Right.
That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we
Authorize.
authorize you to sign this
Thank you. Is there a second?
going forward.
Second.
Any other questions or comments about
Who
this?
seconded that?
They're duking it out.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item, I think, Jerry, you have something
Yeah.
to distribute.
Yes, sir.
This is a request to authorize the first selectman to accept a $5,000 historic preservation grant. And I believe this is something that the town clerk has had before.
Yes,
Is that
we
right?
typically
Do you
get that
wanna
every year.
speak about it, Tony, at all?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Stephanie's.
Yeah, Stephanie
oh,
receives
yes.
this grant typically every year.
It's so
and
wonderful.
uses it to, as it says here, restore historic documents in the town clerk's office.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a plan to restore different documents in different years depending on the age and their importance. So I don't have that plan.
This is a wonderful,
memorized, but
wonderful thing.
She's done a lot of good work down there with that
Yeah,
grant.
she's
Yeah.
continuing to do it. It's an ongoing process, as I recall, and
Mhm.
she's just really tidying things up.
I move acceptance of the grant.
Authorize the first selectman to...
Selectmen to sign whatever.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next are bids. Jerry, you have,
Well, first
First ones we've got.
Radio.
okay. Tony, do you want to speak to this?
So the police department has in their budget $75,000 approved for capital budget purchase for radios, which they would like to seek approval for the state of Connecticut to purchase radios off that contract.
Which is
And,
typically the low bid and.
Right.
Right, and,
Yeah.
okay, and it's already in the budget,
Yep,
So-
it's already in the budget.
okay.
And they're the same, you guys have the same radios, right?
Right.
Yeah, the same radios that the fire department
My
has.
home is stated, but Motorola already contracted with the state, so you get the bid, so you're not going through the radio distributor, you're going right to Schaumburg out in Chicago to buy them.
Right.
So these
I'm sorry, go ahead.
These radios, I presume, since we're buying, they're new, right? They're brand new.
Yeah, these are radios that are-
state-of-the-art
they're-
radios.
Yeah, 6,000s are brand
So-
new for the police officers.
And their radios are,
Firefighters.
what, they're probably, what, 10, 12 years old, their radios? You know,
They're
Yeah.
probably closer to 14.
14?
So these would be compatible with a new console that you
Yes.
may have? That's-
Yes.
Sean, are these the radios that you have?
Yes.
now? The newest?
Yeah, 6,000.
How much are they a piece? Do you know ballpark?
Roughly with the charger, the radio, the speaker mic, I think you're in the area of 2,700.
Thanks.
And it's in the budget, right?
Yes.
Yes. I'll move approval of the police department capital request for the expenditure for the portable radios.
Second.
Any other questions?
Adequate.
Yes.
Is 28, 26s less than 75,000?
Well,
They're gonna,
When you,
they only have 75,000, so they're
when you
gonna,
buy radios at a good clip, you get a discount. So depending on how many radios you buy, your radio price drops.
72,
Instead of, if you bought one radio,
Just
you might
asking.
get it for 2,700. If you buy multiple, you might get them for 24.
So they were kind of right on the money in terms of asking for around
yeah,
seventy-five.
I'm sure they did, I'm sure they did the
Yeah.
math.
They can't spend more than they have.
that's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Just asking.
Thanks, Lawrence. Any other questions?
I can't be overdrawn, I still have checks.
All those, I mean, I know that's, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is a request for a waiver on the purchase of the oil water separator. Do you want to speak to that, Sean? Or-
Yeah, I'll
okay,
start the
okay.
process and,
We'd just like to tell everybody now, the package is clipped on the side. Each individual one is clipped up at the top.
So while we're
So you get a
Hey,
package.
there's more than one.
Okay, go ahead. But while Jerry is sending these around, we've tried 2 different systems for the documents that come in the last day, either leaving them at your place as a package or distributing them right when we get to it. And we wanted to try, sometimes when all the documents are at the place, it seems a little more confusing than just getting them at the time. So feel free to vote.
I like it, well, I don't count, but I like it this way.
What's
easiest?
It will-
It doesn't matter.
It's just really what's easiest for all of you, and I think there's less confusion this way. It's always clear when you get it what item it is, right? Do you understand what I'm asking? Otherwise, you'd have a package of add-ons when you sit down.
Yeah,
You don't care.
I'm totally
Oh,
flexible.
no, I don't mind. Well, my preference would be to get it ahead of time, but.
absolutely
But
would be our
beyond
preference
that,
also.
I guess
Yeah.
it really doesn't
Right,
matter.
sometimes
Whatever's
we don't
easiest
have
for
it.
you guys, it's
Right.
stressful. We can roll with this, we're flexible.
Okay, great. Okay, Tony, do you want to speak to
Yep,
this?
so this involves the oil water separator at the firehouse, and this is a little bit of a complicated situation. It involves several parties, including the chief and myself and Jerry. And the main idea here is that we want to move forward and repair the oil water separator. We had to wait some time until we were comfortable that repairing the oil water separator wouldn't impact our ability to collect on that in the future. And so that's sort of was part of the delay. And to make sure it was well documented and visited by as many people who needed to see it as possible. And at the same time, the fire department uses that bay to wash their equipment and vehicles, correct?
Correct. In
So,
hose.
in hose, right. So it's sort of critical that gets back online so that you can start to do that again, which is sort of where we are at the moment. It's a two-part process. The first is the request for the waiver, which is mainly for Alpine Environmental, because that's the actual contractor. There's a budget for the removal and installation of the new oil water separator, and you'll see that's $46,947, and has a little breakdown there. That includes testing and professional services for our LEP, which is Joe Sanavasi. His name came up earlier. And soil samples, lab testing, and all the other required steps that he follows that's outlined by the state. Essentially, he's an agent of the state as a licensed environmental professional and would monitor this whole operation. So that's the first step, is to remove the existing one. There's a contingency there of $7,500 because we're not exactly sure how much of the soil needs to be removed until you actually take the tank out. Right? It could be, I suppose, more or less than it's anticipated.
Right.
Right.
And it also includes the dewatering.
Right.
When they dig the hole fills up with water and they have to pump it out.
So are there any questions about the bid waiver or the justification for the bid waiver?
Couple questions. On page 1, which is actually page 2, page 1 after the memorandum,
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Yeah, that's the email from Joe.
the total cost estimate $44,492, which included the 20% contingency. Yet on the memorandum, I see $46,947.
Good question.
Can you tell me what that $2,500
Absolutely.
roughly difference
If
is?
you look at the 1, 2, 3 third bullet, which is on this next
oil
page, the town purchases and pays the vendor directly for all the new oil water separator tank and concrete risers for manhole covers that is not included in the above estimates.
So on the original memorandum, the oil water separator at $24.55.
That's it.
The difference not.
Correct.
It's not on Joe.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And the second question is, so Joe oversees this and he's an agent of the state.
Well, yeah, the state instead of having their own agents come out, he's licensed and then
So
will
that-
report back.
It's like using insurance, somebody.
He's like the,
Private
Okay.
investor.
he's their
He's
private.
an
right.
LEP, a licensed environmental
understand.
professional who has a dual allegiance to the state and to his client.
Right.
That's standard.
Right. So my point is, when we do this, and I want to do it as quickly as we can, we feel more comfortable this time around that we're going to get it right
Yes, much
than
more.
last time.
Yeah,
Good.
much more.
Any other questions?
That's the next
That's the
step of the process.
Is there a motion to approve the bid waiver?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next
is the
item.
funding request.
Right, this is line item transfer 141501, first transfer of the year.
Right, and we're hopeful that this funding request is a temporary one and that we will be reimbursed for most, if not all, of this. But in the meantime, we have to go ahead with the repair. So you'll notice on the funding request, a total budget for the entire project, which is $86,523. It's attached to it. Yeah, it should be.
Underneath on the page? Oh, thank you. This guy.
We're sharing.
Okay.
And do you want to explain where the
Yep.
money's coming from?
Mhm. So that includes the removal and replacement that we just explained, plus all the costs that we have incurred to date, which is excavation of the site, pump out of the tank several times, the professional services from Joe. We had to do groundwater testing, we had to do soil testing, we had to do all kinds of testing and inspections and pumping and remediation to identify the actual cause. That's the total budget, or the total amount that the cost of the project is $86,523. So we're transferring that in from a few lines that we've had some remaining funds in our capital budget. The main item is the boiler replacement at the school, where we received money from the UI as a reimbursement, and that's where most of that comes from. The second place is we've had some funds remaining in the revaluation reserve for the assessor, and then finally a few $1,000s in the leftover from the purchase of the building department vehicle.
And we're taking all steps we possibly can to recoup some or all of this money.
I'll give you a report on my report about what's going on.
Okay.
Well, we have to fix it.
Well, we have to
We have to
You have
fix
to
it.
fix
We can always go after the money later.
Right, but,
Yeah, but we have
Oh,
to
yeah,
preserve, we have
definitely.
to preserve
right,
what,
that's- I just
you know,
want to
continue
get that
to
on the record.
preserve.
Yeah.
Right, and that's one of the reasons it's taken this long, is because we had to keep the evidence for the
Right.
different insurance companies, and
Right.
Jerry will explain more about that.
Fabulous.
I'll move approval
of line item transfer 1415-01, 86,523 is outlined in the attached memo.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is the paving bid.
Next two items, we have Warren here in case there are any questions. First is the paving bid, and the town went out for bids for vendor in place bituminous paving, and we received 4 bids. And it's interesting sometimes the bid results that you receive. Do you have that? Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't have that. We were a little delayed on this, which is why you're getting it last minute. But if you go to the bid results, the 3rd page in, is sort of it's a sheet that looks like this. The 4 bids that we received, we bid by the ton, and then Warren assigns the estimated tonnage that will be used for each type of material. This is the way this is bid is per ton of material, which includes application, correct?
Yes.
Right. So you'll see the low bid, which was a Salwar, is $660,473, and you'll see how close the bids are for a $650,000, $660,000 bid. How close all the bids are. So it was amazing. I was surprised they were all so close.
Is that typical? When we do this isn't the.
Some bids, some aren't, some are.
Sometimes they're crazy, like
Yeah,
they're
sometimes
really
they're way out.
separated.
I'm talking
Right?
specifically.
Oh,
This is the
That's
first time
okay.
we've done it as a vendor in place bid. We used to bid them all separate with the application and the asphalt, and so this is more of a streamlined way to bid it. And so this is our first experience with this type of bid. But
He's the low bidder and he's also a Woodbridge resident,
Right.
correct?
right, the local business.
Any questions?
So that's our recommendation.
Would you like a motion to?
Yes, please. To
Accept
approve
the bid of Sal Ward.
Yes.
Grid as outlined in the memo.
And that's it.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Since we have Warren here, I just want to ask Warren, this has been something that Warren has also looked at and is agreeable to this particular vendor that we've used before.
Yes.
Great, that's it. Just want to be sure he was
This is
happy.
based on Warren's recommendation.
Correct,
This
yeah.
is
Yeah, I
Warren's
just want to be
recommendation.
sure he was happy with the vendor, he's worked with them.
The tonnages that are projected in this are based on my calculations for the road, and when you actually get in the field and do it, there could be a variable with that.
Yeah, those are of course estimates, right?
Yes.
Okay, the next is the bid for line painting services. Oh, we didn't vote, sorry, you're right.
Yep, we didn't vote.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Line painting services, please.
Coming down.
I only came in, it's like this guy. It's a good way to collect paper clips. Use them.
No, pulling them out.
Right in the staples.
This goes just in a.
Oh, there's one more, yeah. The final bid is for line painting, and it's for, we actually only received one proposal, and that was from Highway Safety. And what's the type of paint again? Warren?
It's epoxy.
Epoxy, right. Let's explain a little bit about that. Yeah, come on up.
What this year's request was for, we requested proposals for 2 types of paint. One is just, they consider it hot paint with reflectorized material, and that doesn't have the wear characteristics of epoxy. So by using epoxy paint, there's the potential that we would only have to refresh those lines maybe every 5 years instead of doing them every year. if traveling around town, you notice the center lines on the town roads, they have a tendency to fade off. There'll be more staying power with the epoxy paint. On poorly lit roads, hopefully that'll be a better indicator. And the other thing is the federal requirement is to have a double center line on the road, not a single center line. So we are now upgrading to that standard to be federally compliant.
Yeah, on all roads?
Yes, there's no such thing as a single line. Most municipalities, because of the width of the road, don't paint the double line.
Dot, dot, dot.
We have roads that
When you
don't
want
have
to-
any lines, so.
Right.
So
There-
it's
there are-
particular arteries that don't require.
Don't tell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
We
there's-
don't, we have some roads that don't have any
Correct.
lines.
And they're not required to have them on it.
That's what I'm saying, so
Right.
certain roads.
Right. There are
Those
parameters
require
that,
lines with double lines and some.
But does that mean that, for example, Rimmon Road, where there's a double, and it's, you know, and
Rimmon
it's
Road
dot,
is
dot,
a
dot,
state
we can-
road.
Yeah,
Speeds, width of the road,
yeah.
the daily traffic count. Basically, if you have opposing traffic, you need a line on the road. If there's a daily traffic count that's of a certain number, and if the width of the road is of a certain width. So that's why the compliance issue comes into play.
So from now on, all of our roads that are single lined
We'll have a
eventually
double.
go over double line, and regardless of the width of the road.
Correct.
So some of those roads may make it a little tighter.
Make it very
than
tight.
the-
Make it very tight.
Does that affect anywhere where there's parking? I mean, where some people, there's some roads that people typically park on the road.
Most of our roads don't have parking on the roads, and
Are not supposed to, right? If they're-
well, I'm not saying, because it's rural environment that, that there's usually people will park. You'll have people that come and service lawns, things like that, they park on the edge of the road because there is no off-street parking per se.
Yeah.
So, and they can't get the equipment in and out of driveways. So, but in general, that is the standard, and it comes into play, basically the double line is used to delineate which side of the road, and if somebody crosses that line in the event of an accident, they can distinguish easier who crossed the center.
Warren, why do you think there was only one bid? Do you have any sense of that?
Epoxy paint, number one, it's not many companies do it, and lately we're limited, some of the vendors that do it, they're either super busy or too small to do the epoxy. Historically, like last year, for instance, we only had two bidders. For some reason, one of the other bidders didn't bid this year.
I move acceptance of the recommendation to approve bid 2014-19 for line painting services by Highway Safety. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Warren. Next item is Town Council's report.
It's plus more, I guess. Not twice as much, because they're out there. It's
My report just concerns the oil water separator issue, and as you all probably know, upon learning that there might have been some kind of an oil spill, Tony in the town hired Joe Santabasi, who's a licensed LEP, to go out and take a look. DEP was contacted, and there was a spill. The extent of the spill was thankfully not as bad as it could have been, and not as bad as we anticipated. Some testing for spillage into wells was done, and none has come up, so it's fairly clean as far as that is concerned. Nevertheless, there is going to require some remediation. Certainly, there was oil seepage in the hole itself, so before when the tank comes out, the old tank comes out, before the new tank goes in, we have to clean up some of the dirt. So that's the reason for some of those costs. When we found out about this, we put Newfield Construction on notice that we thought there may be a problem, and Joe Santabasi did an investigation and issued a report that he concluded that the oil spill was a result of improper fitting of the pipes into the oil separator at the time it was installed, which is 2009 timeframe when the firehouse was built. There was some issue is that the oil water separator might not have been put in the right direction, which caused it to spill, to lean in the wrong direction. So with that report, we felt that there might be some liability on the part of Newfield, who was the general contractor for the town for the construction of the firehouse. We put Newfield on notice. They had several discussions with their lawyer. They contacted their insurance company, who, by the way, is the same insurance company that insures the town for general liability. That's the Travelers. The Travelers, on behalf of the town, did their own investigation, issued a report, and confirmed Santabasi's conclusion that there was some problems with the installation of the oil water separator, but the Travelers, on behalf of the town, concluded that our policy did not cover this kind of damage, and they declined coverage. And while we disagreed with their conclusion, and in fact sent them a certified letter saying we disagreed, asked them to reconsider. I had several discussions with the town's insurance broker about this. They reviewed it and came back with affirming their original conclusion that our policy did not cover this kind of a situation. So we then started to talk to the insurance companies for Newfield, which was the Travelers. Newfield put a company called Midstate on notice. Midstate is the one that Newfield is the company that Newfield hired to actually install the oil water separator. Midstate contacted 3 insurance companies, one that insured Midstate for pollutant damage, one that insured Midstate for general liability, and a third that insured Midstate for a period of time that we're not really certain they are on this loss. So we have, I just got notice today from another insurance company, Liberty Mutual, who might have had a policy in effect at the time of the original installation. So we're dealing with 4 insurance companies plus the town's insurance companies. All of those entities, I felt we needed to give an opportunity to inspect the hole in the oil water separator, since we were going to make claims. That's why it's taken so long. They were taking they all came out. Some took photos, some made written reports, and some just did oral inspections and said they didn't need to do anymore. So I wanted to make sure I got sign-offs from everybody saying that they have finished with their investigations. Keep in mind, we do have our expert, Joe Santabasi, who's concluded after he inspected it that it was caused by the negligence of Newfield. Plus, we have Travelers who did their inspection and issued a report saying it was negligence as a result of the installation. So we have 2 reports that are going to be pretty hard to rebut.
Is there a professional liability or E&O policy? I didn't know you mentioned GL.
For us?
No,
For Newfield.
Newfield.
Yeah, Newfield has their general liability carry on notice.
But they don't have an E&O policy.
What's that?
Errors and omissions.
Errors and omissions.
I
Thank
don't think you can get errors and omissions for a contractor who does work. I think errors and omissions might not be that kind of a policy for somebody. If you make a mistake, you need a general liability. That's where we're having a difficult time having an insurance company say our policy covers this kind of damage. It's clear that Newfield and Midstate themselves will be responsible if there was negligence or improper installation. But it's hard to find an insurance company that will insure against this kind of work.
Have they sent us their policies?
No, we have not. We have not seen their policies as yet.
So it sounds like we basically are in conversations with 5 to 6 insurance companies or policies.
5 insurance companies, right?
And we'd like to try to get some of what our damage, which I believe what did we say, $86,000 was the total damage, through the insurance. Are we prepared, or would we be prepared if the insurances do not come through with any type of funding?
Coverage. If they do not assume coverage
Right,
for
if they
this
all
loss,
reject
yes,
it,
right?
Are we prepared to go after who we feel is responsible for the installation issue?
Good question, and the answer to that is absolutely yes. And we have precedent because, as you know, there was a problem with Newfield and the floor at the firehouse, and we were involved in several years of it wasn't litigation, but discussions, arbitration. The contract that we had with Newfield calls for an arbitration procedure before you go to court. So we would have to claim and demand arbitration, and then we will, and we're going to do that. We just wanted to give everybody the opportunity to inspect. All the insurance companies have now signed off saying there's no further investigation. We've told Sean to go ahead and go forward with the
Right, right.
closing of the hole. We're
Yeah.
gonna keep the old oil separator for whatever it's worth someplace, so in case somebody ever wants to look at it again in the foreseeable future, we'll have that available.
Thank you. Any other
Susan?
questions?
Are we gonna document the repair?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna.
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. Joe is going to do a complete report,
Right.
and in his final report will be a complete report from the very beginning of the process to the very end of the process, so it's all in one spot.
Right, and he's already given us some
It's
preliminary.
included in the price, yes.
Right.
Yes.
He's already given us a very good preliminary report as to his assessment of why this happened.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Next item is, I'll move that we acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's report. Second. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next, we have two sets of minutes. I'll move acceptance of the minutes of the February 25th, 2014 special meeting of the Board of Selectmen with respect to the budget. Is there a second? Any questions? I will speak louder into the microphone. Any questions or corrections? Beth? Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
The second is the minutes of the public hearing on the Neighborhood Assistance Act, which was held on June 11th, 2014. I'll move acceptance of the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or corrections? All those in favor? Thank you. Number 11 is appointments. The first is, I just wanted to let everyone know that I have appointed Terry Gilbertson for a 4-year term as building official. The appointment of the building official is controlled by state statute, and it's totally within the authority of the chief elected official to appoint the building official. The term is 4 years by statute, and I've done that. And Terry will continue as building official, and we thank him very much for all his fine work and look forward to his continuing with that. The next two are tree warden and deputy tree warden, which we vote on as a board. So I'd like to move the appointment of Warren Connors as tree warden for a term expiring on June 30, 2015. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. I'd also like to move appointment of Adam Parsons as deputy tree warden for a period ending June 30, 2015. Is there a second? Comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. And I would like to thank Warren and Adam also for the very important and good work they do as our tree wardens, and that will be increasingly important as we go forward. Next is first Selectmen's report. First, I'd like to mention there was a house fire, I believe it was Thursday night, Beth, is that right? And there was a electric storm, which caused a fire in a garage. Apparently, there were flames shooting from the garage, and I mention it because the homeowners specifically called to compliment the fire department and what a fine and professional job they did and what comfort they brought to the family, as well as Joe Capucci, our fire marshal, coming out that night and inspecting. It was kind of a very odd event. I think what Joe determined is that the lightning struck a tree, went underground, and connected to the invisible fence for the dog, ended up in the power box or transformer in the garage and caused the fire. So thank you very much to Joe Capucci and the fire department for great work. I'd also like to acknowledge with regret Neelam Gupta is resigning from Economic Development Commission. I think you all have that letter. Part of it is good news. I know that Neelam's business is very, very busy, and she's been traveling around the state, so we congratulate her on that. We'll miss her on the EDC. Other events from this month. On June 12th, I attended a birthday party at Coachman Square for 3 centenarians. It was a very lively and joyful event. Going from one extreme to the other, I also went to the daycare graduation, which was adorable to see the little children, and attended the Massaro Farm board meeting. On June 16th was the Beecher Road School Student Council breakfast. It's the first year of the Student Council. They came to speak to us, and they had decided that their project would be a bake sale. They raised money that they contributed to Human Services, and they presented the check at that time. On June 19th, with Jerry and Tony, I met with Derby Mayor Anita Dugato to talk about the Woodbridge Animal Control Center, give her an update, and talk about changes that we would see in the next year. On June 20th, I was not able to attend the Amity graduation, but I know we all extend our congratulations to the Amity grads. And Tony, I know you were delivering balloons to the household. I saw you that day in the heat. On June 25th, Betsy and I attended the Scrog meeting. That was also our first farmers market, which, as Catherine pointed out, was very well attended. I think people are so excited to have a Woodbridge farmers market. It's a measured first step. We have one a month for 4 months, and I think it's going to be terrific. And also, I had the opportunity to welcome our 2 new police officers. And they're 2 very fine young men. They were, I think, number 5 and 6 in their class, so we had very excellent recruits for our police department. On June 26th, the Coachman Square hosted a breakfast to honor first responders. They stopped in during the morning for breakfast, and I stopped by to see them. We've had various meetings with UI with respect to tree trimming. We've discussed that in our ordinance committee meetings, and that's been ongoing, several different dates. And on July 1st also was our first concert of the season, accompanied by the Taste of Woodbridge. We've now had 2 concerts, both of which were huge successes, but certainly the Taste of Woodbridge added a tremendous amount to it. The Recreation Commission did a great job. Both John and Kathy Adamovich were extremely involved. Tony, I understand you were a great help and volunteer to rec. And it was a terrific. The only downside about the event is that people want it every week, and I don't think the vendors are prepared for that. But I do want to thank the supporters of the concert series and also the restaurants and food vendors who came out, because they made it the success it was. It was really. I think people thought they'd have little snacks, but it was dinner by the time you went through the line. It was just great, and I think it really showcase some of the restaurants. I think, Beth, you picked up a meal and thought to go to the restaurant
Took a friend
after.
for birthday party at Oak Lane the next night.
So
Tasting their stuff. It was her birthday, and I said, let's go to Oak Lane.
So
Didn't even think of that place, but now that there was
Lots
a
of people
Taste of
said,
Woodbridge, I
you know,
said,
we
great for the
I keep
vendors.
forgetting that place.
Different
Right.
restaurants and
Yeah,
different-
it was
great.
very, very good.
So that was another really great event for the town. I've been attending the Massaro Farm Membership Committee meetings, and as I mentioned, the Ordinance Committee has been talking about tree trimming and also blasting ordinances. And the Ordinance Committee at this point feels, both with respect to blasting and tree trimming, probably the best way to go is through the permitting process. And so Betsy is going to be following up on that and bringing us some proposals to review for the permits. We've already mentioned the microgrid. The Amity Board of Ed met last night, and a few of us were there. And last night was the second summer concert, which was terrific. So it was a busy month, and I thank everyone who participated and made all the events possible and very successful. Betsy, do you have anything you'd like to add? Your report?
Not a lot more, because I've been doing a lot of research with both the tree issue and the blasting issue, trying to figure out, balancing the needs of both issues and trying to figure out the best way for the town to move forward with those permits.
Thank you. Betsy's been doing a terrific job gathering information from other towns and looking at what the legal parameters are. for what we
World's
do.
expert on blasting.
Right.
No one knows anything more.
Put that on your resume.
Right.
World's expert.
Next is liaison reports. Lawrence, would you like to start?
Sure, I'll start. The Woodbridge Board of Ed had its June meeting on the 16th, and at the time it was still preoccupied, I guess, with logistics regarding where, moving its summertime programs and getting ready for the start of construction. The Reading Academy was moved to Ezra. I mean, this is all history now, but Ezra is hosting one program, and Amity High School is hosting both the summer enrichment program and the rec camp. So I know the Woodbridge Board of Ed is grateful to those community partners for helping out. And and Dr. Stella reported on the construction, which is now underway. The board heard a report on planned revisions for Beecher Road School report cards. That was the other big topic of discussion that night. To better reflect the teachers' assessments of students. And I wasn't able to attend the June meeting of the Amity Board of Ed, but I can. The microgrid was a big step forward by that board. I can tell you that the Amity school system has a new athletic director for the first time in a very long time, replacing the long-standing service of Paul Mingold. And and Amity's hosting those programs. It's an overlap. But anyway, that's good. Thanks.
I don't have anything. I was out of town for the CCW meeting, and the police commission meeting was canceled.
I'll be quick, I'll try. I'm so afraid we're going to lose power. I couldn't attend the fire commission meeting, but I did call Chairman Alexiadis, and he sent me the minutes that were draft minutes. Let's see, Rescue 1 paint repairs are 75% covered by the warranty, which left a balance of $3,000, which they are taking out of their budget, so we'll be fine. We heard a report on the oil water separator, so I'm going to skip that paragraph. Bids for the new engine 7 went out, and bid opening is scheduled for July 18th, 19th. Let's see, Chief Pokowitz's daughter Kim attended a recruitment program, Deputy Chief Pokowitz is at the academy, so we will have a female firefighter someday, which is good. And all the town hydrant testing has been completed, and the next meeting is the 21st of July. Town plan and zoning, let's see, pretty much all of the applications which came before them have to go to a public hearing. So that's scheduled for, I think, July 23rd, but they did approve the change of use for the Litchfield Turnpike. I don't know what kind of a gas station it is right now. It's
the old
Getty
BP,
or
it was
BP
Getty,
and right.
But now it's just
right.
big.
Now it's going to get cleaned up, which is very exciting. They're going to put a convenience store there, and then the gas station will go. And I believe, as I understand, if this all gets approved, once it also goes to inland wetlands, there will be a. They're going to get rid of those containers that have been there forever. It's going to be lovely. So that'll be a nice fixing up the gateway to Woodbridge down there. And the rest of the stuff, as I said, was scheduled for public hearing. They heard a presentation from a lady, Elizabeth Shemet-Smith, regarding starting a process to develop resources and start fundraising for a quote-unquote special place for children who are struggling with self-esteem issues. And she's looking at the Hitchcock Farm property on Baldwin Road. More on that to come. She just made a quick presentation to them. And then Mike Looney was there to give the commission an update on the town plan of conservation and development. And I thought it was interesting. I just want to note this, that Woodbridge and its conservation partners collectively hold over 2,854 acres of land that meets Connecticut standards for open space protection. So 24.9% of the town's land. That's very interesting that it is open space protected. The survey is still on the town website, as I understand, and will be coming up. Will be coming off at the end of July. And Malone and McBroom is going to hold a special session with the seniors on July 15th to help them respond to the survey, which I think is a very nice idea. And also they're reaching out to, they're going to open up the questionnaire to high school population, which is good to different kind of group for input. And as I said, their next meeting is Wednesday, July 23rd.
Thank you.
Okay.
The pressure's on, Tony.
Ooh.
Great. I'm actually thinking I would talk longer, so that way you avoid the rain when we go outside.
I'm gonna go before Tony, I have no reports.
All right, I'll take as long as I can.
No.
You don't
Two
get to sit
commissions.
in the chair's time.
Take a vote on that?
Killing us. I
Two
tried to talk quick.
commissions met together again. CUPOP and Conservation have typically been meeting together the last four months or so, basically about the 10-year development and conservation plan. They did meet again. They met on 6/10, which was the day before our meeting, and I was there for that. Then they met again on the 6/19. They met together as a dual commission meeting. Unfortunately, I could not make that one, and their minutes are not posted as of yet. But they did meet together and have plans to, I think, do so again from time to time, at least coming up. As far as recreation goes, they had to meet twice. They had a regularly scheduled meeting on the 23rd. They unfortunately did not reach quorum, and there were some very important personnel matters that had to be finalized so that they could open their summer camps. So they had an emergency meeting, special meeting on June 25th, which they did get quorum and pretty much almost had everybody. And they were able to finalize their plans for the summer as far as personnel goes and new hires and that type of thing. They basically have spent a lot of time with the pool, and they are still working hard to try to get the pool with new members. There's still time for people to go and join up, and they're accepting memberships. They have opened the tennis courts, or they were in the process of opening them this weekend, I understand. 4 of the courts were redone, and hopefully that's going to provide an opportunity for the members to play golf if they choose, and to use the pool and use the tennis as one price as the pool and tennis. In the future, maybe there'll be something where they can do something with the tennis as far as getting a pro there again or that type of thing, maybe less. And other than that, they've basically been working very hard on the concert series. Kathy's done a phenomenal job, and John. We have had 2. We have 3 more coming up. I wanted everybody to know that next Tuesday at the 3rd concert is a health and wellness fair, and there'll be doctors and different healthcare facilities coming, as well as wellness, chiropractors and that type of thing, yoga, and different instructors coming, setting up tables. So hopefully come out, and they're all from Woodbridge. They're all Woodbridge businesses, and it's a country band that happens to be local and supposedly very good. So try to come out, and that's it. That's about it.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. All right, just before everybody leaves, there's just some things under other business, but it's just for you to read. Okay? Just so you know what's happening.
We wanted to
We got a very nice thank you note from Amity for the golf. Ellen got a very nice thank you note from Amity for the golfing over, the golf team, which practices over at the club. And you can see how well the prescription card is doing.
Oh, great.
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Thank you.